That's O'Teal.
And that is Mike. And we had another great episode with the great Scott Metzger from J-Rad. And he just put out a new solo record. And
Mm,
man, what a solid dude.
he really is. He really is. We're really like New York's finest lately. We're on like a New York tip lately with some of our guests, like just and he talks a lot about his beginnings in New York and his beginnings in music and this new album, and it was one of those ones that an hour went by way too quick. So we have to
For
have
sure.
him back on. No, you have no choice, Scott. You're coming back.
That's right. It zipped right by.
Yeah, but he's got a great new solo album coming out, some tour dates to boot. So keep an eye out for that and enjoy this episode, everyone. And we're happy to be back with you. We will see you on the flip. Enjoy.
When is your birthday, Mem?
October 12th,
Are you a
77.
Libra?
I am a Libra.
Ah, okay.
I'm late
Sorry,
October. I'm right on the cusp there. I'm on that Libra, whatever's next thing. I don't know what's after
Hmm.
Libra.
Yeah, I don't know much about it at all.
It's
No,
always fire, earth, air, water, right? So I think water comes after air, which is Libra. So probably Scorpio.
I don't know. I don't know. What are
Could
When
be.
you
you?
need Colonel Bruce.
What are you?
Yeah, what
Otil?
are you?
Virgo. And my chart is all mud and water. Virgo with Pisces moon, me and Michael Jackson. Super emotional.
Jesus.
Mud. Fertile. Emotional but fertile.
You
That
and
was just-
MJ.
Me and MJ.
You said that with such like conviction and wisdom. You're just like all mud, like Michael Jackson, sensitive.
Virgo with
Yeah,
Pisces
right?
moon. Colonel Bruce used to always do that. Virgo with Pisces moon, you and Michael Jackson.
Oh wow.
He knew
Scott,
everybody.
Scott, did you have a relationship with Colonel Bruce as well?
No, I didn't. Unfortunately, I had, as far as it went, I had one meal with him on Jam Cruise
Really?
years and years and years ago, and he lost me within about two sentences. Full disclosure, I couldn't keep up. But it was very clear that you were at the table with somebody very special, and I know all these guys. I know how much he meant to all these guys.
Yeah.
So I sort of had like, I had my eye out. I was like, this should be interesting. Like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to sit down with Colonel Bruce. I'm going to introduce myself, and we're going to have some eggs, and this will be for a good story. And it didn't disappoint at all. Like within like two or three sentences, I was like, say what? I got nothing.
His
I couldn't tell
favorite
you what
thing.
he said.
His favorite thing to do was to not make any sense at all. So,
Right. Well, mission accomplished. Yeah.
Did you
Lived up to the hype.
did you have a mentor in your musical upbringing like Colonel Bruce was to so many?
Yeah, sure. And still do. I was lucky that I had a couple. Where I grew up, there was a little bit of a scene that I was welcomed into, and the sort of rock star guys to come out of that scene were Ween. I don't know if you know that band.
Love Ween.
So Mickey and Aaron are about 10 years older than me, but they're from the same town essentially, and right across the river. And there's only one club to play in our little town called John and Peter's.
John and Peter. I did stand up there.
Did you? Yeah.
And Mickey
I
walked
mean,
in and I froze. Mickey walked in and I froze. I've done stand up in front of so many famous people, but Mickey walked in and I was like, ugh. And just because I feel
Right.
like if there's a bullshit filter, it's him. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And I was just
Straight
like
up.
doing,
That's
yeah.
right.
And I just saw him and was like, I'm a fraud. And then later on, I went up and was
Yeah,
like, I'm a
right.
huge fan, but I love John and Peters. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. But go
Yeah.
ahead.
Well, especially in New Hope too. I mean, Mickey's like the mayor. Those guys are the dudes. And in John and Peters, I don't know if you remember, but there's like a huge Ween poster when you first walk in. It's like, whose house you're in, for sure.
Yeah.
So I got to start playing with those guys when I was very young, and like you said, they are very much bullshit detector type guys. You know,
Yeah.
they know when somebody's not being real, and they're not having it. Like, they're going to call people out on their shit. Um, and there's another guy who's sort of the guiding light in that scene down there, who's not quite as famous as Ween, but just as important, named Chris Harford, who is sort of like a Neil Young type songwriter, incredible catalog of songs. And he invited me to start playing with him when I was about 19. So that's like 20, coming up on 25 years ago now. And me, Joe, and Dave from JRAD are playing with Chris just next month. So I still play
Oh,
with him. I still
cool.
talk to him all the time, and still am learning from Chris. He's turned me on to more music than anyone that I've ever met. I've learned more about music and what it means to be a musician from him. And also, more importantly, just about life. I'm sure the same way Colonel Bruce did for you, Oteil. It's like a mentor in the truest sense to me, is somebody that teaches you not only about what you're into, being music and whatnot, but also just like how to carry yourself in the world.
Yeah, well, he taught maybe not quite as much on that last part. But he was so crazy, like, but he did in a way. It was kind of exactly the same thing, but maybe from the opposite direction. Like, it's ODK to be completely out of your friggin' mind. Like, that's you, man. Like, accept it, So I was like, all right, I could just be, and I'm really not that weird compared to my true weird friends, you know. But he definitely had that thing where it was like listening to music. I think there's more of that he taught me, or he taught me more as much or more in that way than actually playing it or calling me out or whatever. Just like listening to different. He turned me on to so much different stuff, and
Right.
and I had been turned on to a lot of stuff by my dad, but he was, yeah, he even got my dad on some stuff. you
I,
know.
I
Yeah.
I'd go as far to say it that like the guys in Ween are quite possibly some of the most underrated talents in music, where they can literally jump from genre to genre. A calypso song, a song that sounds like Thin Lizzy, a song that's a beautiful country tune, a ballad, all of them with such humor and such like essence that you're literally like it's mind blowing how genre spanning they are, with such like balls and heart. They leave
Yeah.
100%, 110% in every song they play. There's no, you go see one of their concerts and it's like you're guaranteed you're gonna get what you paid for. I love that
Yeah.
about them. The sense of humor that they bring to everything is just, extremely important. Same with Colonel Bruce. I mean, these mentors, they're mentors for a reason, right? They may not even ask to be, you know?
Right. Right. I
Yeah,
mean,
some
the
people
talent,
just naturally.
yeah, I mean, the talent with those guys is undeniable. And one of the biggest lessons that I got from them, kind of like what you're saying, and from Chris too, is the type of musicians that I tend to be drawn to, or that really resonate with me in one way or another. The ones I've been lucky enough to meet and hang out with, they all sort of have a, a similar theme in that they take the music incredibly seriously, like more serious than anything, but they don't take themselves too seriously. And
Mm,
that to me is really, really in the sweet spot of how to do this, of how to be a
yeah.
musician. Um,
How to be a human.
it, yeah, yeah. I mean, because it's like, you listen to some of the Chris would. So me, Chris, Joe Russo, and our friend Matt Kohut did a tour of Europe in like 2007, where we did like maybe 15 or 20 dates. And every morning we'd get into the Sprinter and have our tour manager drive in the Sprinter to the next gig, and he would put on Parliament Funkadelic, Good Thoughts, Bad Thoughts every morning, which is like a spoken word.
Mm.
It's just like a philosophy thing. It's actually based on a writing that happened in the 1920s by a guy named James Allen, which is called As a Man Thinketh. And
Mm-hmm.
George Clinton was reading that when they recorded Standing on the Verge of Getting It On. But like, you listen to something like that, and Chris would be like, you know, what are you going to say after that? You know, that's it. Like, I got nothing, you know.
Free your mind and your ass will follow.
You dig? I mean, you know, that's real. That's real to me. For a guy who grew up with no kind of like religious background or anything, from me, I've learned all the most important stuff from music, really.
Nicholas Payton, what was I listening to? Afro Caribbean mixtape or something. But anyway, there's just this little spoken part in there. It says, you know, music is a form of worship. Playing music is a form of worship. And I've always been, it's sacred, you know? That's what it kind of was with my dad. He didn't have any religious upbringing. He's very, well, he did, but he's very hostile to it. But music was like the thing that he just put up, and musicians. So, of course, me and Kofi got that, you know.
That's how I
But
feel.
like you say, you got to also you take the music seriously, not yourself so much, you know. So what? Tell me about your new record now, your new record venture.
Oh man, yeah, it's coming out in March, and it's my first record as a leader.
Congrats on that.
Awesome.
Thanks. Yeah, it was a roller coaster of emotions to get it done. You know, there was like one point where I was sitting there listening to the playbacks. I was like, is this just the worst music ever recorded? You know, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah, I know. I hate all my records.
Oh, your records are good. I think you got to feel that way at some point. You know, it's just part of the process of doing it. It's been terrifying and exhilarating, and I've been really proud and really full of doubt. But the whole spectrum. But it is done, and it's coming out in March on Royal Potato Family
Awesome.
Records. Yeah, it's called Too Close to Reason, and it's a all acoustic record that's just me. It's truly a solo record in every sense of the word. My fiance plays on one song. She's a violinist, Katie Jacoby. And other
Nice.
than that, it's just me. And it was totally recorded during lockdown. I live here in Brooklyn, where, you know, it was really tough to do anything with any other people outside of your household for a really long time. And in that span is when I made the record.
Super cool, man. I
Yeah,
can't
I
wait
can
to
give
hear
you.
it.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I'll send you a copy for
Is
sure.
that
I can give
it?
you the cliff notes. Yeah, this guitar here.
Yeah.
I took the pandemic when we realized that the pandemic wasn't just going to be a few weeks, and we were going to be stuck here for God knows
Yeah.
how long. I took it as an opportunity to I've never owned a nice vintage acoustic guitar, and so I said, well, if I'm going to be stuck here, I'm going to make myself as comfortable as possible. So I bought a real nice espresso machine, and I bought a real nice vintage acoustic guitar.
And an album was born.
So what year is it? What?
And an album, and the rest is history. Yeah. Well, I went on the. Do you know this place, Carter Vintage Guitars?
Oh
O2?
yeah, I got a banjo from 1936 from there. Actually,
Right.
yeah.
See, so
I
it's one
do.
of these places that the
Yeah.
vintage guitar scene is like, you know, you got to know what you're doing. You don't want to buy a dud. And Carter Vintage is one of these really well-respected places. So I went online, and they had a 1957 Martin 00018. And as soon as I saw it, I said, that's the one. That's the guitar. So I called them up, and I said, hey man, I'm calling about the 57 Martin. And the guy said, I sold it 2 hours ago. It was like, you
Always.
just missed it. Always, right? And then he said, well, but if you don't mind something that's banged up and really been played, we have a 55 of the same model, 00018, that just came in yesterday. And it's everybody on the staff's favorite guitar that's ever come through the door. Like, everybody's fighting to play this thing. And
Wow.
and so I said, well, you know, could you, I forget the guy's name who I talked to, but I said, would you mind making me a video of you just playing some G's, D's, and C's on it? You know, just to see it. And he sent a video, and I've never bought a guitar online ever in my life.
Yeah, you
And
got to
so I
hold
figured-
them.
Right. Yeah, exactly. You really want to know. And I just said, fuck it, man. Like everything was so nuts back then in that
Yeah,
phase anyway.
really.
I was like, you know what? Nothing makes sense right now. So I might as well go all in.
Wow.
And you can see, I mean, it's
I was-
gorgeous. It's
I-
banged up, but it's not like,
That's
falling apart
beautiful.
or anything. It's great.
Yeah.
And so when it got here, I just started, sitting around the house playing it, and the songs that ended up on the record kind of just started really weirdly easily presenting themselves. All these melodies and stuff just kind of started pouring out of the guitar.
So you wrote the album on that guitar?
Album was written on that guitar.
Wow. Okay, now that's cathartic.
Now, see, I need to know,
No.
did you treat the purchase of the espresso machine the same way? Did you say, can you send me a video of you making a small, a medium, maybe a large? Can you smell it?
No, but I feel like I treat the espresso machine with more care than this thing. Like, just before we started talking, I'm in the kitchen, like wiping it down with a rag, and like breathe, making
Of
sure it's cool.
course.
This thing I like leave balancing in the most precarious way possible on a chair or on
It's
the
like sitting
on the tabletop.
on the radiator. Yeah.
Well, let's face it. There is no guitar without espresso machine first. So we just got to keep things in their proper order, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's all right.
That's right.
Yeah.
There's a natural order to things. You got to respect it.
Did it feel nice the minute you picked up the guitar? Were you like, this is her?
I shit you not. I didn't. I picked it up, and I was nervous because, as I said, I had never ordered a guitar online, so I was a little concerned. Got it from downstairs, brought it up, unpackaged it, opened up the case. A perfectly in tune G chord without having to tune the thing at all.
Damn.
And I just knew immediately it was like, this was a good idea.
Wow.
There's a lot of bated breath at that moment, because your first guitar you bought without ever touching it at all, you're like, well, here goes.
I was, man, I was concerned. And, it's a 55 month. They're not just giving them away, so it's like,
Sure. Yeah.
it's a little bit of coin there. So, but
Skin
it
in
all
the
worked
game.
out.
Well, and the
Yeah,
thing
exactly.
too, real guitar lovers too, and I think I've heard Trey Anastasio talk about this, where he like a new guitar, you need to like let the wood get used to being a guitar. Like he kind of like looks at it that way, where it's like it needs to have that bend and like the sound and vibrations and stuff, like stretching it out. And you think about what that guitar that's sitting next to you has been through, the
55.
rooms it's been in, the people who may have held it. Like that shit is so fascinating.
It's amazing. And it's amazing the way that, this was 1955. Some dude built this thing with his hands back then. And it's probably the best playing guitar that I own, and I've had to tune. I never have to tune it. Like it never goes out of tune. It feels perfect. It's just like one of those things where, the stars aligned, I guess. And here we are.
And you wrote a pandemic record on it. I'm so glad you recorded with Katie, man. I mean,
Oh man.
that's super cool.
Yeah, that's always a thrill. We've done two things now. We did a sort of like a gypsy jazz, Stefan Grappelli, Django Reinhardt influence thing.
Nice.
With our friend Simon Kofka on second guitar, called Showdown Kids. We did that a while back because that's a real love of ours.
Yeah.
Are you a Django guy? Were you?
Oh, dude, Django and Charlie Christian just over and over, just over and over and over and over. Yeah.
Undeniable, right?
Yeah. And Stefan Grappelli played till he was like 140. Like, the dude, literally, and killing, like, not, oh, poor guy, like, yeah, I absolutely adore that whole period, like 30s, mid 30s, all that stuff is so good.
Yeah.
But we got to shout out Katie too, man, like playing with Robert Plant and
Roger Daltrey.
Or Daltrey, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so Katie Jacoby,
Big mistake.
Katie Jacoby, who is my fiance, she was playing in Roger Daltrey's solo band for about a year or two, maybe. And when he was touring with a orchestra behind him, and she was the principal violinist. And then when the Who So she was the principal violinist with the orchestra, and then on Baba O'Reilly,
Mm.
she had her big moment. She'd come out center stage, and she's up there with Roger Daltrey doing her thing. And then when the Who decided to go back on the road, they brought her out, and she was the principal violinist with the orchestra there too. And then had her every night. Would just have, it was unbelievable. I went to see it at Madison Square Garden, one of the first shows they did, and they did Baba O'Reilly. And man, I'm not kidding. They turned off every single light in the arena except for one spotlight on, like Pete Townsend, Roger Daltrey,
Nothing.
like step aside. Yeah. And she came out and did it, and I was bugging out. I'm a pretty soft spoken guy, but I was like hitting the people next to me. I was like, "That's my girl, man! Look at her."
That is so awesome, dude. That's right, because I forgot. I probably told you that Daltrey story when I went to see him. Pino was playing with him. And he put me and Lil John Roberts on the guest list when we went to see him in Atlanta. And, I never had one record by The Who. And about halfway through the concert, I was like, I know like 10 of their songs. Like, that's iconic. I have no records. And I know all these songs. But the best part was I didn't notice, like, Daltrey was like opening one button of his shirt strategically as the concert went on until it was about halfway down. Now you got to realize, like, Daltrey, they're not changing the keys. He's singing everything in the original keys. He's hitting all the high notes because they're playing with video of the old Who behind him, right? So then I was already like, I'm in. If I had a lighter, I'd put it up for you guys, But then when I noticed the shirt thing and I caught the buttons, I was like, he's going for all the way. And then sure, when it built to a certain peak, that last button went, and he went like this, and the shirt was flapping in the wind. And he looked good under there. I was like, now that's a rock star.
Rock
Just
star.
like old time.
I mean, yeah, through and through.
Dude, totally owning it. The first time I went backstage, I went backstage after the gig, and Katie introduced me, and he's there like shirtless backstage, and I'm like, "Hey, hi, Mr. Daltrey." Well, to meet you. You sound incredible. He's like, "Oh, thanks, Scott. Come back and have some crisps." And he's like shirtless. I was like trying to keep my cool. I'm like, "Yeah, man, cool.
He's not going to put that shirt back on."
Yeah, it's not coming back on. But you're right. I mean, the fact that they're up there, and he's serious about like not changing the keys. He's hitting all the high notes, and their show, I was amazed, man. They're up there for like 2.5 hours and change. Like they're like really working, they're doing it.
That was the band. The Who was the band growing up. That was, like my old man's albums. It was kind of like I had the bin I could listen to and the bin I couldn't listen to. And in the bin I could listen to was like all the Who albums, and above the Stones and above, all the Kinks and the all the other stuff. The Who was always like Quadrophenia was the album that kind of like, wow, like this is listening to a story. Like this was songs had a throughput and a theme, and the characters were the same and all that. And then Tommy, and then I mean that was. For me, that was always like the quintessential rock and roll band was the Who. Keith Moon going completely insane. Entwistle playing a solo guitar version of the bass. I mean, but standing there like stoic as hell, And Townsend with the windmill and all that. They were always the ones. Like they were like the rock band to me growing up.
Yeah, it's funny. I'm with you, OTL. I never went through a big thing with them, but when I did start to go see them, the same thing happened. I was like, oh man, they wrote every song they'd start. I'd be like, oh man, this song's fucking great. Oh God, like this song's amazing for 2+ hours. And what I've seen behind the scenes is like so perfect too. It's like Roger is like very, like I'm saying, like come backstage and enjoy some crisps and some tea with us, Scott. Like tell me about yourself. And then there was one night where we were walking down the hall backstage, and Townsend was kind of walking into his dressing room, and Katie was like, "Oh, Pete, this is my boyfriend, Scott. I'd really like you to meet him." And he kind of just looked down the hall, and he was like, "Right," just went into his dressing room, like, no interest at all.
No interest.
Like pretty punk rock.
Yeah.
His interviews are hilarious because he'll just be talking. I really don't like playing music.
Right?
Yeah.
Why do you do it? He's like, I kind of just have to because so funny.
He like wants to like write his sci-fi novels and hang out on his yacht or whatever.
Yeah, it's sail, right?
Yeah, it's so
It's
different.
Pretty much.
hardcore. Yeah?
His
You know what?
his solo band would cover this song by the band called the English Beat. It was like a post-punk. I think it was called "Let Me Down." Was the name of the song. Or "Save It for Later." It was a really great tune, and it was like tuned in a very weird. Like the guitar was tuned way down to like a low D, and he would like really played the hell out of it. It was cool to hear him kind of playing like a newer music, you know, like in his eyes, I'd imagine. But it's kind of neat to see that stuff, you know. Like I like to think about what the people I like listen to.
It's funny to see those guys now, like, you know, survivors, you know, whenever I think about any of the bands, you know, Allman Brothers, all the old bands and all the crazy drug shit they went through. I'm pretty sure that if I had been famous and rich at 19, 20, like, I don't know if I'd have made it.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, it was a good thing I didn't
And
have
can you?
that.
Yeah, I can't even imagine the energy that those guys must have been dealing with because you know they were inventing this stuff as it was. I
Yeah.
mean, they were like in totally uncharted territory. They were like, let's see how much we can get away with because there was nothing that came before it, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So even more incentive to just go like totally off the rails. I mean, I had a hard enough time dealing with like very modest success when I was like, you know, younger. You know what I mean?
I didn't need any success at all to like have a
Yeah,
hard
right,
time.
right.
You're dealing with
just-
success without the
Yeah.
success.
Yeah, exactly. I was down there, you know, playing at a packed John and Peters, being like, "Oh,
Yeah.
let's do this." You know, we're going, we made it. You know,
Someone comes up and goes, "Hey, great show," and you're like, "Would everyone just leave me the fuck alone for a minute?"
yeah. Security.
Security.
Yeah, right.
My favorite story though is Ivan Neville's, and I don't know
man.
if you've heard that
Yeah.
one about the Stones one.
Sure.
So, I
What's
gotta
that?
have him on to talk about it. I shouldn't even ruin
Yeah,
the story,
right.
but it's
Oh,
just
yeah.
kind of. I'll do the short version because the short version, Ivan's such a great storyteller. But he, you know, he was playing with Keith Richards first, so and he was super young. I love when he posted pictures of him like super young, and he always says, "This is young scrape." That's what he calls himself, young, and getting scraped up. So, you know, he's trying to hang with Keith, and Keith parties on a whole nother plateau that we can't even be aware of.
He's like scientifically partying.
Yeah,
Because we don't-
extraterrestrial.
Who has the money for drugs like that, you know?
Right.
So, of course, the other guys in the band, they're aware of what's going on, and Keith wants him to get in the band. They're like, dude, him getting this gig will probably kill him. Like, you know, like he's not ready for this level of success. And so Keith, and I'll let Ivan tell, I don't know how much of it I'm getting wrong, but they were like, you're responsible for him, Keith. Like, and something happens to him, it's on you, you know, like, so he just vouched for him. He's like, come on. And so Ivan gets so excited. He scores and parties so hard that he passes clean out and misses the first gig. So they were like, oh, well, I guess that, you know.
You're out.
But he'll tell you, he'll say it's the best thing. He was like, if I'd have got that gig, I'd be dead. I just know it. You know,
Right.
so it's good. It's so beautiful to see him be able to be totally okay with it. Beyond that, thankful, you know. And so that's how I just love to hear people's stories like that. I know you went through some stuff, Scott, and you've come out of it so great. And I've only seen you on the other side of that, which is so beautiful. I think it's one of the beautiful things about getting older and surviving. You know, and you can actually sit back and look back and go, okay. But I don't know your whole journey.
Right. Well, I mean, you know, for me, I mean, just I've been sober for 15 years now. I got sober when I was 28, and it had to happen. I mean, without going into the gory details, I'll tell one story, but without going too deep into it, you know, I did all the research that I needed to do, and I know that a sober me is the way I want to be. That's it.
That's a great way to
Suffice
put
to
it.
say, it wasn't all bad, frankly. It was like there were a lot of great years. There were a lot of
Yeah.
like really, really good stories that I won't tell here that came out of it. But um, but when it did need to happen, it really needed to happen. And I'm the same way you were talking about how Ivan looks at it. I mean, I am so grateful that it did get as bad as it did for me, because it forced me to make what has turned out to be the best decision I've ever made in my life, for myself. Um, that being said, on a much, much smaller scale, when I first met when after hearing Ivan's story, it makes it a little easier to tell this, takes the sting out of it a little bit. But so I went down and played Jazz Fest. Of course, it happens in New Orleans, right?
Of course.
The mecca of bad decision making, right? um, there was one year where I went down and I was playing with. This was probably, it had to be about 2004, and this was the first real red flag where I was like, this might not be working out. Something needs to change. I went down. I was playing with Joe and Marco, and we were doing a thing down at House of Blues with. It was called "Bustle in Your Hedgerow," and we played all Zeppelin tunes instrumentally. And Marco was doing left-hand bass, which he's amazing at, and it was just the three of us. And they were really good friends with Stanton Moore, which at that time I did not know Stanton, and I was like shooting for that standard. It's like I really want to go down there and impress Stanton Moore. So what did I do? I go down, and me and Russo go out drinking all night, and we're coming home back to Stanton's place, who I had just met, and he had shown me this lovely new leather sofa that he had got. It was beautiful and pristine. Yeah, exactly. That face that you just made, Mike, is like, you're like, oh, here it comes. So we go back to Stanton's place, and as we're walking up the stairs to the house, my equilibrium is basically like, we're done here. And I've never experienced anything like it. And it's weird that I can remember it, considering the state that I was in. But I just went whoop and flipped right over the side of the stairs and landed on the sidewalk, going up to his house. And I went inside, and I was like, fuck, man, and I walk in the door, and Russo is just sort of passed out on a different sofa there. And I was like, Russo, man, I think I really hurt my arm. And he's like, you're fine. Just we'll deal with it in the morning, whatever. I'm sure you're cool, because it had been a long night. And I said, okay. And so I decided to lay down on this leather sofa of Stanton's, and it turned out that the next morning I had like gashed my arm open, and I bled all over this dude's brand new, like tan leather sofa. And even just telling it now, like it's been long enough, and I've discussed it with Sam, and but it still makes my stomach get up in knots a little bit. Yeah. But I tried to do everything I could. Like I absolutely freaked out and was mortified, and I tried to call every like leather specialist in New Orleans. And it just so happened that Stanton's daughter was born that night, so we had to go to the hospital. And I don't even really know Stanton that well at this point. And I'm just like the guy in the back, being like, hey, like congratulations and stuff. And we took the elevator down, and I could feel Marco like being like, you got to tell him, dude. He's like kind of like, you got to tell him. And we got downstairs, and to Stanton's credit, he could not have been cooler about it and more understanding. I'm sure he's seen a lot of shit.
New Orleans,
the ambassador of New Orleans, right? And we play in a group, me and Stanton, to this day. And every now and again, I'll ask, "You get a new sofa yet, man?"
How's that sofa?
It's been terrible, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
See, that's how I feel about always hitting you in the head with my guitar when we played.
Me and O'Teal have a tradition where whenever we've done gigs together, we're always standing next to each other, and without fail, I'd say we're at a solid 80% gigs. He gives me.
You're killing me. No, because
I get a shot from his headstock in the
Oh,
forehead,
damn.
you know,
Jeez.
and it happened at the first sound check that we did. I think it was like we within 4 minutes of playing together.
I don't understand. I mean, I've played on so many tight stages, and
Yeah, right.
it's not like I haven't done it before. Like, we'll be able to be like, you can't be on this side, or we have to be like staggered like this or something. We can't, like, I can't do it again. Yeah.
Right. No, we're good. We're good. And I don't mind. I like full contact,
Full contact
full
music.
contact jamming. Yeah.
Hell
But
yeah,
anyway,
dude.
that was just to circle back. That was Stanton. I'm sorry about your sofa. And, that was the first that was the first sign for me. And then there was a bit more of a period of kind of like figuring out, trying to get sober, this, that, the other. And then, in 2006, I sort of went through the thing where I had like the full blown, as stereotypical as it sounds, like the full blown like moment of clarity, and just sort of said it has to change, and it did.
Was there anything in particular that precipitated it, or was just that you had reached the finish line? You were just like, "This is it."
Yeah, I
we're
sort of
done.
crawled over the finish line. Yeah, and it had sort of progressed further, and the standards had sort of continued to get lower and lower, and I just, like I said, I had that moment. But now, like I said, it was, I don't know, people that knew me before and after, they'll tell you. I mean, I'm like a wildly different human being.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And it's not a big deal anymore. 15 years, it's kind of like, I always say, it's sort of like brushing my teeth. Like, it's not a big deal. It's like I show up for myself every single day, and I know if I don't, there's going to be consequences. And I can feel it in myself that I do have those, I have problems with just doing something. I can feel it that if I went back, I think it would be pretty bad news. So I'd rather not even look into it.
Did you have a time after a while of being sober where you were like not scared anymore of going back? Like, where you just sort of like, oh, I finally reset myself. Like, I can, because there's always a period when you're trying to abstain from whatever it is that you're worried about relapsing. And I know you should always be vigilant of it. I think when you get older, you can see the signs coming. You're like, okay, you can forecast into the future more. But did you remember a point where you finally were like, okay, I think I got this?
Yeah, well, I mean, I took 2 years off of doing gigs when I first got sober, because I didn't know if I could still do it. I didn't know how to tie my shoes sober. Like, it was like starting over entirely. Forget about going to like a nightclub and trying to play guitar. So I taught kids how to play guitar here. There was a school of rock here in Manhattan, and I got a job there. And I just went there for like 2 years, and I taught so many kids how to play Smoke on the Water. You can't believe it.
So you're the one to blame.
It's me.
Hey, that's what they want to learn. When I was teaching, it was this Guns N' Roses tune with the bass guitar intro. I don't even know the song.
Sweet Child of Mine.
I don't know, but I had to teach it to like 50 different or however many bass dudes. But good for you, man. We had a comedian on, Gary Goldman, recently. It took a break. He did a big special about depression, and he had the best quote. He said, I realized that it was okay for my art to suffer for me this one time.
Right.
And I was like, man, it's hard to teach a young person that.
Yeah.
When they're really in the throes of like older, people can get that more,
Well, and I give you a ton of credit for, even at 28 years old, like knowing enough to have the wherewithal that it's like, I need to stop. Like, sometimes you hear about people getting sober or having that moment, or like before their 30s, or before their, even in early 30s and stuff. And it's like, shit, I wish I thought of that before, like I look back on a lot of times in my life where it was just drinking just seemed to be, like you said, tying your shoes. Like, it was just part of
ubiquitous.
Breathing, walking, eating, sleeping, having drinks, pre-gaming to go drink. I mean, now a pre-game for me is like Advil and prayers, and like there's no
A nap.
a nap. Yeah,
Yeah, right.
I'm calling people looking for excuses not to go do shit, but it's just, I mean, I genuinely couldn't even imagine. Like, you said something that really just kind of hit me, and I'm just thinking out loud. Like, how do you go back to a nightclub where it smells like booze, where you hear the glasses clanging, where people are drinking and having a great time, and you have to be the performer. You have to be the one that, and when
Mhm.
booze was always your sidekick, it's hard to it's hard
And
to
the ritual is the same.
Yeah.
Like as soon
Yeah.
as you show up for load in, you know when the drink's coming, you know when the whatever, like it's just, so it's hard to go through
Mhm.
that same ritual and just extricate, take out all the bad stuff.
Yeah, right.
And it's hard.
Yeah, it was tricky. And the biggest thing too is like for me, I remember the biggest problem when I started to feel comfortable, dipping my big toe back into this and trying it back out. The toughest thing to deal with was like the expectation, because just that everyone else had, because they knew me as one person, as this guy. And just because you change doesn't mean anybody else is going to change, and not everybody else is going to be sympathetic to you changing. Not everybody's going to be into it, because what I saw that when I changed, I think that it kind of put a mirror up to a lot of the other people that I was hanging with, and it kind of made them. They might have been like not ready to see some of the stuff,
Yeah.
to see that. Maybe it was, it was a whole process, man. It was a whole thing.
When you get the people that are like, come on,
And I
man,
just kind of
party.
took it.
And it's just like, wow, really? I thought we were friends. Like you would actually want that guy to come back.
So funny you just said that. Yeah, you get that. Come on, like that.
Oh,
Almost
dude.
like,
I mean, I went to, yeah. I went to Japan. I did a tour in Japan a few years after that, and like people were like really disappointed because it's such a part of culture there too for fans to take the band out after gigs and to drink a lot.
A lot.
People were like really offended. It was tricky. It was tricky.
It's like I'm trying to save my life. You're offended. And you would rather me die than hurt your feelings or offend you or whatever. Like
you're going to be a lot more offended in 4 hours if you don't leave me alone.
Yeah, right. Trust me, it's for the greater good.
Believe me, it's better for all of us.
But it's hard to stand your ground at that point when you're still like, even if you're like dead, even if you're resolved, it's steel, right? You're still like, wow, I still got to deal with this. And that's just one of those things where you have to power through. And I think that clarity is the only thing that does it, where you're like, I could be alive or dead. So I'm sorry you don't get that right now, probably because you're already on your way to being fully drunk. So I'll just have to give you a pass because, I'm playing for keeps here. Like
that's right. And I think it's got to be for you. I think that's really the thing, because I've known people that have, tried to clean things up and tried to change their ways, and they've kind of been doing it because other people have put pressure on them to do it or whatever, and it never sticks. No. It's got to be some like really, really personal decision where you just say, I'm doing this, and kind of the hell with anybody that's got any sort of problem with it at all. Like, I don't care. I don't have time for it. I don't want to hear about it. Like, this needs to happen for me.
And you can't even let someone else's lack of sobriety, because, if you do it for someone else, it doesn't work. If you do it for yourself, but now you're trying to help someone else, a friend, close usually, and you're like, hey, man, and then them not doing it can take you down. Like you really have to just be like the airplane, put your own mask on first. I know your kid is right there, but you can't help your kid dead. You got to put your mask on first, and then you can, that's a hard thing to get.
It is. And luckily I had an incredible group of friends around me that have to this day. I mean, a lot of them, some of the guys I'm referring to are like in JRAD that we've gone through like this crazy journey together. But I've known those guys for 15 years before JRAD was a thing. So they saw the whole thing go down, and those guys have had my back, and to have a crew have your back on it, like no questions asked, no doubt about it, just makes all the world. I guess it makes the world a difference with anything that you do.
Yeah,
but
for sure.
With something as tough as that, man, I can't thank those guys enough. They're like family. Like,
That's why I don't miss. I'm not envious of the the people that mostly I work for that
mm-hmm.
made it really young, because like your J-Rad crew, you guys went through all that together, and I'm assuming all of you are still alive. So a lot of those
Yes.
cats didn't make it. So collectively, you could sit back together now and enjoy the fruits of just being alive right now.
Yeah,
Yeah,
And that's a heavy thing, man. That's a deep, beautiful thing.
and
it
J-Rad
is.
is so has from day one. You guys just hit magic immediately. I mean,
That
automatically.
chemistry. Well, but
Jesus
it's
Christ, it's so good. Oh,
how
I
many
mean,
years before J-Rad you said you knew him?
15 years
15
before.
years? Yeah, so it's not
That's
new.
exactly it, man. That's
That
exactly it.
chemistry's
And
so old,
Oh,
yeah.
I know.
yeah, exactly. And honestly, I mean, everybody, we were playing that way before
Before
You let
J-Rad,
anybody in the room.
long
Right.
before.
Long
Yep.
before. But the difference just was that, we're playing that songbook, which then opened it up to, a huge audience immediately. And it's connected in a way that I don't think any of us, I know for a fact, none of us thought would happen.
And
Because
But it's
that was
cool
going to be
because
a
you're still
one-off gig.
but the
Yeah.
It
fun
was
that you
supposed
guys
to be
like,
a one gig.
I know that's just so wild. And the way that you'd go from a staple, help slip, and then throw in like an obscure '90s alternative, you know, whatever Sonic. I forget the name of it. In the meantime, or whatever, would like
Yeah,
fall
yeah,
in there, and it's like, holy shit! Like you're just having so much fun with
yeah.
this. Like it's like you're reading the Bible, but like in a whole other. I don't know. I'm from the moment I heard J Rad, I was like, this is it. This is it. This is the greatest thing ever.
I
Well,
love that you guys get to be yourselves and play like yourselves, but it's just a different songbook,
Yeah.
yeah,
And
absolutely. Well,
fortunately, with the Dead, it crosses so many different genres that you really do get to. I get to be as much of myself in the Dead, minus having just like little John Roberts, on the funk stuff. But you know what I
well,
mean? I get to do just like the funk, blues, Latin groups, country, bluegrass, gospel, jazz, like the whole, whatever you want, like rockabilly.
Ballads. Yeah.
There's all
yeah, right.
kinds of.
It's amazing. It's, I mean, all credit to what you were talking about with the Space Hog cover. Like,
Space
all
Hog.
credit
That's it. Yeah.
to all credit to Mr. Russo. Joe.
Yeah.
It's Joe's vision. I always, Joe was in further. He saw something. He sort of understood, I feel like, the music in a way. And then when we
Yeah.
did the gig, he gave us permission to just like do our own thing, and continues to, and sort of, I think that's a big part of the whole thing. That is the whole thing. That's the
Yeah.
difference. And I feel like you're saying, I remember when we did a gig when you were filling in for Dave, and we were playing Red Rocks, and I don't know what song we were playing, but you started playing the bass line, the Memphis Soul Stew, and then immediately Marco started playing the organ part, and I kind of hit the guitar, the tasters that I don't know if it's Cornell Dupree that plays.
Cornell
It is,
Dupree.
right?
Yeah.
Cornell Dupree on the original. I started hitting the tasters, and we all sort of just looked at each other. We're like, yeah, like we're doing it. We're doing it. And I don't know how many people there caught that or not, but that's the beautiful thing, is that the openness of the book, you can really take it anywhere, and the fans are willing to listen. It's all pretty unbelievable.
The thing I love so much about Joe, and I think it might have been the thing I loved about the Who and the band, and some of the where the drummer is just like I don't know, man. He should be right up front on a 10-foot riser, and it's like just everybody revolves around like when a drummer is the leader. It's just I'm so drawn. When I go see Fish, I sit behind the stage and just watch Fishman. Like I know how Trey and Mike look. I don't care. I want to watch the drums, and I'm fascinated and drawn to the percussion. But watching Joe play is like one of the most enjoyable things.
Well,
Stan
yeah,
Moore
I mean,
too.
yeah, I mean, I met Joe in the late '90s at a club called the Wetlands here in New York. And one of the booking agents there, Jake Suknarowski, was telling me for a minute, he was like, you got to come see this dude, Joe Russo, play. And I was kind of, eventually I made it down to see him play. And within like minutes, I was like, you got to be fucking kidding me. Like, this guy is everything. Because Joe always, in my mind anyway, he was always playing the way that he plays now.
Yeah.
Like, and it was like seeing like a guy who had taken all the best shit from like John Bonham and Jack DeJohnette and like sort of his own thing. And then like there was like a prog rock odd meter element to it.
And then Animal from
the
Muppets.
This guy just, yeah, man. I mean, nobody does it like Joe does.
I love
what
him
do
so
you
much.
even say?
God.
I love the way Levon does it. Levon sets up, because our first night of the 40th anniversary with the Allman Brothers and the Beacon was Levon and Taj Mahal.
God damn.
And I was like, we literally could have gone home after that. And it was the first time Levon was singing again after his cancer. He had played, but he had just started singing again.
Yeah.
But I'm on the far. I always forget if stage left is your left looking at the audience. But I'm on the left looking at the audience, and Levon was at the front of the stage facing me, like facing this way with his drum kit. Right at the front, but horizontal. And it was like, it was trippy. And he could lead the whole band that way with like a space or something. Yeah.
Oh yeah. And Joe played with Levon, and he holds Levon in like super high esteem, as we all do.
Yeah. Doesn't
he
he?
go
he was
He used to live up there, did he?
The Ramble, right? The at his house, he would have everybody up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
I met him once, and I'll keep it brief. But when I first moved to the city, I worked at BB King's nightclub as like a sound guy. I actually started handing out flyers in the middle of February in Times Square to BB King's, like the most.
What year was
job.
that?
That's like 2001.
Dude, you must have been there when I played there with the Peacemakers.
I was.
Okay. He's like, let's move past that. Okay.
No, not at all. But I was. I don't want to fanboy out too hard, I was there. But so long story short, when Levon came and played, and it was in the same era when he was just coming back from his cancer, and he was playing again, and he was playing there with Hubert Sumlin, who is Howlin' Wolf's guitar player, and that's a very important book to me. Like that's serious stuff. So I worked that gig, and Levon got there, and I helped. He like drove up in his Subaru down 42nd Street. We're like getting his drums downstairs for him and stuff. Like the most unassuming dude ever. And he played. He sounded amazing. And at the end of the night, I'm helping him out with his drums. Now, I would work at BB King's off and on when I wasn't on tour for like 6 years, let's say 5 or 6 years. And in that time, that he was the only guy who ever gave me a tip. And at the end of the night, it was really nice, man. It was really nice. I was helping him with his drums. And at the end of the night, he was like, get yourself a cup of coffee or something, son. And he gave me $50. And I was just like a guy running cables, stagehand dude. And that
awesome.
That lesson, you talk about mentors and meeting your heroes and stuff. That lesson, I think about that all the time, and like how you treat the local crew when you're coming into somewhere, because here we are 21 years later or whatever, telling the story.
Anytime I'm on the road with Dave Attell, he'll always bring candy and like gifts to the staff, and it's just like the crowd's like, oh, St. Dave is here, and it's just so nice because it sets a good vibe for the room, and we're nothing without the staff of these venues, and to be recognized and remember, and like someone pays attention, and by a guy like Levon, who the most fascinating thing to me about him was like when they needed to find him to come back and play again, he was like working on like an oil rig off the coast of like Western like Canada or something. Like he was, when he quit, I think the Hawks, I might be wrong with the timeline here, but they needed him back to play, and they had to go find him on an oil rig somewhere. And I'm like, wow, like, of course he's driving down Times Square in a Subaru, like that's just that, egoless kind of, working mentality,
That's right. Yeah, it's
he
really inspiring.
The kindness, and when did kindness ever hurt anybody?
Yeah. Hey, Scott, a lot of coming out of the pandemic, a lot of people are struggling with maybe getting sober or dealing with their own, you know, figuring it out and things like that. And without being, is there any advice or any like anything that you remember from like, embarking on that mission that you'd like to share with anybody that's listening?
Yeah, I mean, I don't like to be too preachy about it.
I don't mean,
But
yeah, I hope not.
no, but it is a good, it's a great question, and I think that kind of the same way that we were talking about with music and the chemistry that I've had with guys for so long. I think that having some sort of a network of people that can help you, whether it be like a program, of some sort, or just some friends that don't even necessarily need to be sober, but have your back and your best interest in mind. I think that that just really, really makes all the difference. It's like the old saying, you can go further in a group than you can on your own.
Yeah.
And, because I wouldn't have been able to pull it off or to be as comfortable as I am with it now, sitting here, if I didn't have, know in my heart of hearts that the people that are most important to me all around me really are looking out for me and really are rooting for me, so to speak.
Yeah. My
And
wife
and
has
also,
this.
you got to be prepared for you got to be prepared for it not to be easy too, because it's not easy. At the beginning, man, it was a bitch.
Yeah.
It was very confusing, all the stuff, but it does. You got to have the faith. Yeah, you really do, because it does happen. It's like I cannot imagine my life. I don't want to imagine my life if I hadn't made that decision.
Yeah, it turns out it's better. It turns out better than you think it could be, you know. I'm sure when you were at Madison Square Garden watching
Yeah,
Katie like have the
Hmm.
spotlight on her and not Daltrey or Townsend. I
right.
have
Yeah,
so
yeah.
many moments like that. I'm glad I lived to see this moment. Thank you. And even
Oh,
thank
yeah.
myself, you know.
It's such a trip to think about. Everything that's happened. It almost doesn't feel real. It's like I just can't believe. Like I sit here and tell the story about Stanton's couch and stuff. It's like, man, did that real? Like that actually happened?
Yeah, I
It's
know.
That
nuts.
happened. You're like,
Yeah, it
yep, that
really
happened.
happened.
You need those reminders.
Yeah.
My wife bought this T-shirt for my son. I think probably when he was 4. He's 7 now, and it said "Find your herd." And I was
Mm.
like, man,
Mm.
I'm glad you're giving him that early, because that really is, man. You get it's love that keeps us going, man. You get that the people around you, and if you can figure out how to love yourself, you can do the impossible. I
Yeah.
mean,
Mm.
I had a vasectomy. I was sure I wasn't going to have kids, and now I'm like, I got 2 kids. Dad, and still, even though Nigel's 7 and Kavi's 4, I hear this
Mm.
little voice like Dad, and it's like,
Holy shit.
wow, that's all
You're
she
like,
knows
what?
of me is this guy, not the other
Right.
guy. That it's still like on my shoulder at sometimes, or I'm like always looking back at that guy, and it's like you're not that guy at all to your wife or to Kavi or to Nigel.
Or
So
to
like
you.
enjoy that, or even to me, even though I can remember back. So yeah, I hope people do get that. It just seems impossible, but you can. You really can. It's
Mhm.
worth taking the chance continually, perpetually,
Yeah.
going through the hard times. So, man, we
So,
don't want to keep you all the time, but
well,
oh,
I'd
what
like
were you
to
gonna
know
say,
real
Mike?
quick, is a tour to follow the album being released, Scott?
Yeah, some dates. There have been some dates announced for late March into April, playing
Nice.
Northeast, like the usual suspects: Boston, New York, Philly, DC, and there's more to come. There's much more to come.
Awesome. I can't wait to
Good.
hear this album. And what's so
Yeah, I'm
cool is
psyched.
the way that you place the guitar, the way that it's sitting is it looks like it's turning back into a tree. Do you see that, O'Teal?
I do.
I, I have been I
Mystica.
have been microdosing a little, but I do see that it's turning back into it. Scott, you're awesome, dude. I can't wait to
You are,
catch you
man.
live again soon and thank you for everything. Really.
No, cheers. Well, great to meet you, Mike, and thanks so much, Oteil, both of you guys for having me. Really, it's a pleasure to. I believe in what you guys are doing.
Oh, thank you,
I was
man. I
honored to be.
appreciate it.
I was checking out the list of people that you guys have had on, and I was listening to some other things. I listened to the Bela Fleck interview you guys did. And he's like, yeah, and then I got Jerry Douglas on my record, and then this guy came down. I was like, fuck, man, what am I gonna tell But it's an honor. It's an honor to be in that cast of characters. For sure.
We have the pandemic to thank for that. So
Yes.
everyone we wanted to talk to was home and had no excuse
Everybody's
to say
gettable.
no. So.
Yeah, right.
But we still need to have you back though, because we haven't covered a number of things, like the fact that you played on the very last gig that I did with Kofi on this earth, and that was a magic night. So
I mean, let's talk about
Yeah.
it
It
if you
was.
want. If you guys
well,
want to stick.
I have to go myself, and I don't want
Next
to
time.
keep you too long, and it leaves you on the hook for next time.
Thank you
Just
so
when you
much,
think you're
Scott.
out, they pull you back. Yes, of course.
See you soon
Absolutely,
out
guys.
there. Thanks
All
for
right.
listening, everyone. Awesome. Thanks, dude.
Scott, you're the best, dude.
Oh
Seriously.
man, thank you guys. Was that all right? Did that feel all right?
Just
That was a pleasure.
perfect.
That was like
Thanks.
a pleasure to talk. Oh man.
Thanks for letting me put you on the spot about your old dark. And now I've just like shared all of Ivan's stuff, but I'm sure he's told it.
He has.
before.
That was
Yeah,
a
yeah,
fun
don't worry
story.
about it. You're good.
I want to hear him. I got to find him telling that
You
story.
got to hear him
I need
tell
to
it.
hear it.
We'll
Yeah.
have him on the podcast, dude, and have him tell it because,
That'd be
with
amazing.
Charlie Watts dying and all that, so much stuff. He's such a great boy. What
Oh
story?
man. Yeah, when he tells it, it's like watching a movie. Like you can see it going down, and it's like it
It's
just
like,
keeps getting
yo,
worse
man,
and worse.
because
Like,
then Keith was like,
yeah,
Jesus
right.
Christ. Being
Over the
around Keith
top.
Richards must have been so terrifying, man. I don't know how the fuck anybody. Oh
you
God,
got to
Forget
do
it.
a lot of dope.
Yeah,
forget
dude.
about it.
I can't imagine. All-star
Scott,
team.
I'm always I'm in touch with Kevin Calabro,
Awesome.
and I'll
Yep.
stay in touch with you. I'm always in the city doing stand up. I'm at the Cellar a bunch in Gotham and all that. So like, if you ever want to come out, or if you're hanging around the city or whatever, love to catch up, say what's up. I'll just let him know my dates, and if you ever want to come to a comedy show or anything, just get
Oh,
out
thanks
of the
so
house.
much, man.
Yeah,
We
more than
love
welcome.
going. We go to movies and we go to see comedy. We don't go
Oh,
to see
cool.
much music. So yeah, I'll
Right on.
definitely take you up on it.
Okay, that'd be awesome. I'll let him know for sure. And
Thanks,
I'll
man.
connect. We'll get connected and all that. So,
Beautiful.
thank you.
Love you, brother.
All right. Love you,
Yeah.
OTL. More soon, fellas.
Yeah, I hope we play again super soon.
Yes, sir. I'm sure. More to come.
All right, man.
Adios.
All right.
See you, man.
Bye.
Late.